I'm not the kind of person who gets scared easily. I've always been the type to prepare for things, not obsess over them. I'm 31, a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, Lily, who's 4, and Max, who just turned 2. Tom, my husband, works long hours managing a warehouse, so when he comes through the door at 6 p.m., I get my brief moment of relief. That's when the world shifts. Even if it's just for an hour, it's my time. A deep breath, a few minutes of peace before it all starts again. Some nights I head to the gym. Other times I just drive with the music up, windows down, and the backseat empty. No car seats to buckle in, just silence, if only for a while. Most nights, though, I run errands. It's my little escape from the chaos at home. On a Tuesday, in early December, I figured I'd take a late trip to Costco. It had become a bit of a routine for me. Go after dinner, avoid the crowds, and get some space. The store stayed open till 9:30, but by 8:15 it was practically deserted. The Christmas rush hadn't fully kicked in yet. I parked in a well-lit spot near the front entrance, right beside a cart corral. Safety first, that's my motto. Years of parenting and a ton of personal safety training had me always scanning my surroundings. I took mental notes without even thinking about it. A blue Dodge Ram a couple of spots over. Empty. A dark sedan parked across the aisle with tinted windows. Engine running. Weird, but not enough to make my heart race. Not yet, anyway. I wasn't scared. I had my pepper spray in my jacket pocket and a personal alarm on my keychain. Tom and I had taken a self-defense class last year, so I felt prepared. But that night, something felt off. It wasn't fear. It was more like heaviness, like walking into a room that had just been tense, like something had happened before you even showed up. Inside Costco, it was quieter than usual. The lights hummed overhead. The faint sound of Christmas carols played from hidden speakers. I grabbed a cart and headed straight for the seasonal aisle, hoping to find some cheap string lights and wrapping paper. 15 minutes later, I was down the toy aisle, looking for something for Max. That's when I saw him. The man, mid-20s, tall, lanky, wearing a baggy gray sweatsuit and tan boots that looked like they'd never seen a day of actual work. His face was blank, no expression, just empty eyes staring straight ahead. He wasn't holding a cart or a basket, just strolling past the shelves, hands shoved in his pockets, moving slowly like he was in no hurry. I gave him a quick nod and a polite smile. He didn't even blink. Just walked right by, like I wasn't even there. I shrugged it off and kept looking at the toys, but something felt weird. 5 minutes later, I ran into another one. Same height, same gray sweatsuit, same boots, same dead eyes. He looked up, saw me watching him, and immediately dropped his gaze, turned down the next aisle without even looking at anything on the shelves. That's when I felt it, that prickle at the back of my neck. The kind of feeling you get when someone's watching you, but they don't even need to look to make you feel it. Still, I told myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe brothers. Maybe they worked together. Or maybe I was just overtired. I had a lot on my mind. Another 10 minutes went by. I'd made a strange loop through the store, pharmacy, snacks, electronics, and now I was zigzagging on purpose, just to see if it happened again. It did. The third guy. This time, older, maybe mid-30s, same outfit, same boots, same lifeless look. He didn't stop, didn't look at anything, just walked past, eyes flicking toward me before turning away. That's when my stomach tightened. Something about the way they moved, the way they looked or didn't look, felt wrong. It wasn't predatory, not the usual way you get that feeling. It wasn't like they were sizing me up or anything. It was clinical, cold, like I was just an object to check off, a task to complete. I gripped my cart harder and started moving faster, my mind racing. Could they be security? No, the staff at Costco wore uniforms. Loss prevention. Maybe. But no, they weren't interested in what was on the shelves. They were interested in something else. I changed direction again, making quick turns through aisles, hoping to shake them off. But no matter where I went, one of them would be there. Not all three, never together, but always one. Watching. Following. I was being tracked. I tried to stay calm and made my way toward the front. Near the checkout lanes, I spotted two girls, probably around 12, giggling and wandering by the candy and books. They were laughing, oblivious to everything, when the youngest man, one of them, came into view. He turned his head toward the girls, then glanced at me, like a recalibration of some kind. It was subtle, but it was enough to make my heart race. I walked over quickly, keeping my tone soft, not wanting to spook them. "Hey," I said gently, "where are your parents?" They blinked at me, both shrugging. "Shopping somewhere." "Why?" "Can you go find them for me? Right now, please." My voice came out firm, despite the growing knot in my stomach. "It's really important you don't wander alone." Something in my tone must have landed because they both nodded without hesitation, then darted off in search of their parents. I kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move, didn't say a word. Just watched the girls leave, then turned away slowly, as if it didn't matter. That was it. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I started walking toward the checkout, my pace quickening, my head high, scanning the aisles for anyone in uniform. I wasn't taking any chances now. A young woman at the register smiled as I approached, but I could see the question in her eyes. "Hi," I said, lowering my voice. "Can I speak to a manager?" She blinked, clearly startled. "Sure. Is everything okay?" "No," I said quietly. "I think I'm being followed." It only took a minute for the manager to arrive. Her name tag read, Samantha. She had a kind face, but when I spoke, I saw the color drain from it. She didn't waste any time. "We've had complaints," she said, her voice dropping lower. "Female employees, some members, same description." She picked up the phone and immediately called for a male employee to escort me to my car. "I'll file an incident report, and I'll alert the authorities, just to be safe." I nodded, my body trembling now. Even though I tried to stay calm, my hands felt ice cold as I gripped the cart. Josh, the employee, stayed close as we walked outside. His eyes darted around, cautious, alert. When we stepped out into the parking lot, I saw it, a white windowless van. It was parked directly behind my car. One of the men was sitting in the driver's seat, the engine running. The other two were standing near the side, their heads down but angled toward my vehicle, as if waiting for something. As we moved closer, they saw us. I pointed at the van, my voice tight. "That's them." The men didn't hesitate. They scrambled into the van and slammed the door behind them, tires screeching as they peeled out of the lot at top speed. Josh froze for a second, clearly stunned. Jesus Christ! I didn't even look back as I rushed to my car, hands shaking so badly I had to take a deep breath to steady myself before opening the door. Josh stood by, still scanning the lot, making sure they didn't double back. I didn't cry until I was safely inside, locked in, pulling out of the lot. It wasn't until I was a mile down the road, the streets empty and quiet, that I finally broke down. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in bed, my babies just down the hall, thinking about how easily it could have gone the other way. The van had no windows. Their movements had been too calculated, too precise. The next day, I reported everything to the police. I gave them the van's partial license plate, and Samantha did the same from the store's side. The cops were concerned, but they weren't shocked. They told me this kind of thing wasn't unheard of. By Friday, I saw a post in a local neighborhood group. 2 attempted abductions had happened that same week in the same plaza. Same white van, same gray sweatsuits, same chilling presence. I haven't been back to that Costco at night since. Not alone, not ever. And if you're reading this, I want you to remember one thing. Your instincts aren't paranoia. They're your early warning system. Trust them. Because sometimes when you think you're just running errands for your kids, someone else is running errands for you. I never imagined I'd be the type of person to get creeped out in a big box store. But somehow, Costco had always been one of those places where the chaos seemed comforting. The families arguing over free samples, forklifts humming in the distance, the greasy scent of rotisserie chicken mixing with the sharp tang of bulk detergent. It all felt familiar. I started working there in the fall, right after I moved back to my hometown in Michigan. I told myself it was just temporary. A job, to pay rent while I figured out what came next. I began in the food court, slinging hot dogs and pizza during the after-lunch rush. But after 2 weeks of dealing with grease burns and impatient customers, I transferred to soft lines, clothing, seasonal items, sometimes books or holiday decor. It was quieter. People didn't fight over socks the way they fought over churros. The night that still haunts me started off like any other. It was mid-December, prime Christmas shopping season. I was on the closing shift, from 2:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., with the last hour reserved for restocking and organizing after the store shut down. I remember how the snow fell as I arrived, wet and heavy, soaking through my shoes with each step. The store was packed when I clocked in, the usual last-minute rush before the holidays. I kept my head down, folding pajamas and putting stray jackets back on hangers. After the store closed at 10 p.m., I figured I'd be out by 11:15, maybe even earlier. I was wrong. Around 10:20 p.m., the store had been officially closed for 20 minutes. The overhead announcement had already played 3 times. Costco is now closed to customers. Thank you for shopping with us. Most of the lights were dimmed, leaving only the harsh glow of the overhead fluorescents along the back aisles and a few fixtures near the checkout area. I was folding a table of flannel shirts near the back corner of the clothing section when I heard it. A soft shuffle, nothing loud but enough to make me freeze mid-fold. I turned my head toward the next aisle over. Nothing. I figured it was just one of the stockers moving around or maybe the floor scrubber making a weird echo. Still, something felt off. Then I saw it. A pair of boots, just barely poking out from underneath a hanging display of winter coats. At first I thought they were mannequins. They were oddly still, the lighting casting strange shadows that made it hard to tell. But when I took a couple of steps closer, I saw it. The toes twitched. Someone was lying on the floor. I stepped around the corner of the rack to get a better look. The person had wedged themselves between the wall and a pile of unsorted winter wear. Excuse me, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. The store's closed. The figure didn't move. For a split second, I wondered if they were hurt, but then they slowly sat up. A man, pale, thin, maybe in his early 40s. His greasy black hair hung limp around his face, and he wore a navy windbreaker zipped all the way up to his neck. His eyes were wide, glazed, like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't say a word. He just stood up and walked around the end of the clothing display, disappearing from my sight. Not running, just walking. I radioed it in. Soft lines to front. Desk, I've got a guest still in the store. Male, mid-40s, navy jacket, not responding when I talked to him. The crackle of the walkie-talkie was followed by Lisa's voice, our floor supervisor that night. Got it, Claire. You sure he's not with janitorial or night crew? I'm sure. He was hiding. Okay, stay where you are. I'll send Matt over. I turned the corner to see if I could catch a glimpse of him. And there he was again, standing in the main aisle near the hardware section, completely still. He was staring at me, like he'd been waiting. My heart skipped. I was about 50 feet away, but the intensity of his gaze made my stomach churn. I said louder this time, my voice shaky. Sir, the store's closed. You need to head to the exit. No response. Then he started walking. Not fast, not threatening, just walking toward me, his expression blank. I took a step back, a primal instinct kicking in. I turned and walked quickly, heading toward where I knew Matt usually was, near Seasonal. My pulse was pounding now. It wasn't just that the man was acting weird, it was how silent he was. No reaction, no talking, just following. I found Matt, stacking ornaments by the snow globes. There's a guy. He was hiding behind the coats. I saw him, and when he noticed me, he just started walking after me. Matt's face changed in an instant. His posture stiffened, and he stood up straight, his eyes darting around. Where? He asked. I pointed toward the aisle, but by the time we got there, the man was gone. We made a quick loop of the store, checking behind displays, crouching near the carts. Nothing. No one. I started to convince myself I'd overreacted. Maybe he'd been confused. Maybe he left. But then came the sound, a sharp metallic clink echoing from the sporting goods section. Matt and I turned in unison. The man appeared a second later, calmly walking toward us, his hands gripping a small aluminum baseball bat. He wasn't swinging it, but the way his fingers tightened around it like he was holding on to something more than just a piece of metal. I could feel the tension crawl up my spine. "We don't get closer," Matt whispered. "We need to go now." We backed away toward the front of the store, heading toward the employee-only doors near the photo center. As we moved, Matt radioed, in what we'd seen. "Lisa, we've got a problem. Man with a bat. He's heading our way." There was a crackle on the line before Lisa's voice came through. "Urgent. Everyone get off the floor. Lock yourselves in the back room or employee entrance. We're calling the police." Within minutes, it felt like we were in some kind of lockdown drill. All 6 of us who'd been working that night, me, Matt, Lisa, Antonio from janitorial, and the 2 seasonal workers, Rachel and Tori, gathered by the locked break room near the employee lounge. The room had a security lock that only staff could access. We huddled in silence, waiting. I don't know what we expected. Maybe that he'd try to break in, or that we'd hear smashing or yelling. But it was worse in the quiet. Nothing. Not a sound. The police arrived about 10 minutes later, though it felt like an eternity. They came through the receiving bay, flashlights and tasers drawn, sweeping the store in pairs. It didn't take long before they found him, lying behind a tall steel shelving unit in the warehouse section, tucked between some patio furniture still in boxes. One of the officers told us he didn't resist. He was just sitting there staring blankly. No ID, no bags. All he had was the bat and a dead cell phone. The officer muttered that he probably planned to stay the night. We all gave statements. I overheard Lisa talking to the cops. "He didn't check in through the front," she said. "He doesn't match any regular members. He either slipped in during the rush or got in when we opened an emergency exit for a delivery earlier." By the time I went home, it was 1 a.m. I still felt jittery, the adrenaline clinging to my skin. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of it all. It wasn't just that some stranger had been hiding in the store. It was the way he moved, the way he never spoke. Not to us, not to the police. He was watching. I was sure of it. He was waiting for something, and that thought made my skin crawl. I quit about a month later, though that night was a big push in that direction. I couldn't walk past the coat display without feeling that sensation creeping up my neck, that horrible crawling feeling. I kept picturing his boots underneath the fabric, kept seeing those cold, glassy eyes across the aisle. I don't know what he really wanted, but sometimes, especially when I'm in a big store at night when everything feels just a little too quiet, I can't shake the feeling. Someone might still be there even after the doors are locked, watching, waiting. I didn't notice I was being followed until it was already happening, until I was too far in to rewind it. I was 17 then, a junior at Millbrook High, just trying to scrape together enough gas money to keep my Corolla alive. My parents were the type who'd ground me for a B, but also drilled into me the value of hard work. So, after a lot of pleading and promises to keep my grades up, they let me pick up a part-time job at the Costco off Route 8. Millbrook's not tiny, but it's not big either. Just enough people that you might run into a stranger and think, "Wait, do I know you?" Costco was considered a good gig, decent pay, even for us part-timers, and management that didn't treat you like dirt. It was only my second job. Before that, I'd worked a forgettable summer at this froyo joint where the AC never worked, and the owner always smelled like onions. I was still figuring out how to juggle school, work, and a social life that mostly consisted of me and Maddie, texting about how tired we were. Most of my shifts were evenings and weekends. I usually worked the register or folded clothes in the apparel section. I'd been there about 2 months when I met Ryan. It was a Thursday night in early November, one of those cold snaps where the air smells like wet leaves and frost. I'd just clocked out, and was walking through the parking lot under those humming yellow lights that make everything look like it's underwater. I had my red Costco vest balled up under one arm, my phone in the other, thumbing out a message. To Maddie, "Wanna hang? Got off early." Then I heard a voice behind me. "You just get off?" I looked up, a little startled. A guy, maybe 19 or 20, stood a few feet back. Tall, lanky, kind of pale. He had light brown hair that curled just a little, like it couldn't decide whether to be straight or wavy. He wore the same red vest over a black hoodie. Khakis, a little too baggy. I didn't recognize him, but new hires were always rotating in and out. "Yeah," I said, giving a polite smile. "You?" "Yeah, just wrapped up. First week. They've got me bouncing all over. Carts, freezer, you name it." I laughed a little, half looking at my phone. "Yeah, they did that to me too. Thought I was gonna die folding baby clothes for 4 hours." He grinned. "I'm Ryan, by the way." Emily. We ended up walking toward our cars together. Turns out we were parked just a few spots apart. It was casual at first. He asked how long I'd been working there, what school I went to. "Still at Millbrook High," I said, zipping my coat. He nodded. "I graduated from there 2 years ago." "Oh, really? Don't think I ever saw you." He shrugged, kinda sheepish. I was quiet, one of those under-the-radar kids. Didn't really do the whole pep rally thing. He asked where I lived, and something in me got cautious. I kept it vague. "Near the Sonic," I said, which was a few blocks from my actual street. He smiled. "No way. I live over there too." Looking back, that should have felt off. I'd never seen him at school. Never in the neighborhood. And Millbrook isn't the kind of place where people just blend in. But I chalked it up to coincidence. When we reached our cars, mine a scratched-up Corolla with a rattly exhaust, his a clean white sedan, I gave a quick, "All right, have a good night." "You too, Emily. See you around," he said with a grin that lingered just a second too long. I got in, checked my phone again. Maddie had replied maybe later, tired AF, and started the engine. I didn't notice at first that Ryan had pulled out right after me. The way home from Costco's simple. Left onto Millbrook Avenue, then a right onto Ridgeway, which cuts right past my neighborhood. At first, I didn't think anything of the white Sedan in my rear view. It was probably just coincidence again. Maybe he did live nearby. But when I turned into Maple Glen Estates, the kind of neighborhood where every house looks like it was made from the same kit, I felt my stomach dip. His headlights followed. Still, I told myself not to freak out. Maybe he's turning onto a different street. I slowed down a little, hoping he'd veer off on Spruce or Alder. He didn't. I turned onto Hemlock Way, my street, and glanced at the mirror again. Still there, still close. Not tailgating, just sticking with me. I pulled into our driveway, heart pounding now. I kept one hand on the wheel, the other hovering over the ignition, watching. The white sedan eased past, real slow, like he was sightseeing. It reached the end of the cul-de-sac and just stopped. No turn, no movement. Then it parked. I didn't move. I stayed inside the car, barely breathing, staring at the rear view. The sedan's engine stayed on, headlights still glowing. 30 seconds passed. Then the lights flicked off. Now I couldn't see him at all. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and dialed home. Mom picked up on the second ring. "Hey, can you come outside?" I whispered. "What's wrong?" Her voice sharpened. I didn't know how to explain. I just stared into the dark. "Just someone's parked outside. I don't know them. Please." My voice cracked. I hated that. Less than a minute later, the porch light flicked on and my mom opened the front door, squinting into the dark. She waved like everything was, fine. I got out of the car, trying to look normal, forcing my steps to be casual. My skin felt too tight. I didn't turn around, not once. Inside, I kicked off my shoes, bolted the door behind me, then hurried to the front window and peeked through the curtains. The white sedan was gone. No taillights, no engine hum. Just wet pavement and the faint smell of cold. The next day at work, I scanned every face behind every red vest looking for Ryan. Nothing. Not Friday. Not Saturday. By Monday, I asked around, trying to keep it chill. Hey, who was that new guy? Tall, kind of curly hair? My supervisor, Melissa, frowned like she was trying to remember a dream. There was a guy supposed to start last week. Orientation on Wednesday, I think. But he never showed. No call, no show. That didn't make sense. I talked to him. He was in uniform. He knew the store layout, the employee lot, even knew who parked where. You couldn't fake that, could you? Maybe he'd been hired and quit in the same breath? Maybe I imagined more than I thought. I tried to let it go, tried to be rational. Maybe he really lived near the Sonic. Maybe he just parked to text someone. Maybe he wasn't watching me. Maybe I was overreacting, but that itch at the back of my neck wouldn't leave. Not even when weeks passed and nothing happened, until December. It was a Friday and I was closing. Register duty. Holiday season rush meant late shifts and long lines. My manager, James, poked his head around the corner right as I was logging. Off. Hey Em, can you hang back 15? Tina's short a bagger. Yeah, no problem, I said, already regretting it. By the time I clocked out, the store was nearly silent. Just a few lingering staff and that hollow fluorescent hum. I walked, out with Rosa from the bakery. We weren't close, more like shift friends. But she was funny and always smelled like cinnamon. God, my feet are dying, she muttered. Same. I think my toes are flat now. She laughed, waved as she veered off toward her Civic. Night, girl. Night. I kept walking. The wind had picked up, bitter and sharp. As I reached my car, something caught my eye, tucked under the wiper. A folded piece of notebook paper. For a second, I thought it was a flyer, or maybe one of those sketchy mobile detailing coupons. I plucked it out, shivering, and unfolded it. With numb fingers, 6 words. I know where you sleep. My whole body locked up. It was like the night air got sucked out of my lungs. The letters were written in thick black ink, blocky, all caps. No name, no joke, no smiley face. I spun around, heart pounding, eyes darting across the parking lot. Nothing. No white sedan. No figures lurking in the shadows. Just a few scattered cars, most already dusted with frost. I didn't even remember unlocking my door. I just climbed in and slammed the lock button with shaking fingers. My breath fogged the windshield. My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped my keys. Somehow I drove, straight to the Millbrook PD, my headlights the only thing cutting through the dark. The officer on duty, older guy, wide-eyed like he'd seen enough weird to not laugh, took one look at my face and nodded me into the station. I handed over the note inside a plastic sandwich bag I found under my seat. The ink had smudged slightly from my hands. He asked the usual questions. Any exes? Anyone who might want to scare you? No, I said. No one. I don't even date. They pulled up the Costco parking lot footage, but the angles sucked. A camera faced the front entrance and another pointed at the tire center. But nothing caught the bakery side exit where employees usually slipped out. The officer sighed. Whoever did it knew where the blind spot was. They upped patrols near my house. My dad installed a motion light and a security cam above the garage the next day. Every time it clicked on at night, my heart jumped, like he'd come back. I stopped walking to my car alone, started waiting for coworkers or asking James to walk me out. I always parked close to the entrance. I double-checked my locks, triple-checked. But Ryan never came back. No one ever saw him again. And to this day, I still don't know who he really was or what he wanted. I remember that week vividly, mostly because it was already a crap storm of stress. Megan's car was supposed to be in the shop for a quick belt replacement, easy in and out, but of course it turned into a 4-day mess. Some kind of leak they just happened to notice. She works the closing shift at Costco, big one off Chandler Parkway in Red Ridge, so I told her I'd drive her back and forth till the shop was done. No big deal. I work from home. Her shifts end late when the roads are empty. And honestly, I didn't mind the quiet drives. I'd already picked her up 3 nights in a row without incident. Same routine. Park in the lot, scroll through YouTube or doom scroll, Twitter while I waited, she'd come out looking wiped, we'd hit a drive-thru and go home. But Thursday night, I don't know. It just felt off. Not in any something's wrong way. It was quieter than usual, colder, and the lights in that empty lot cast these long-ass shadows that made everything look stretched and weird. Hard to explain. Just wrong. Her shift ended at 10 sharp. Costco closes right then. I left the house at 9:30 like usual. Gave myself a little buffer. The drive took 10 minutes, same as always. When I pulled in around 9:45, the parking lot looked half dead. A few scattered cars, nothing unusual. Late-night employees finishing up. I shot her a quick text. Here, usual spot, no rush. She replied fast, "Thanks, babe. Just finishing carts and trash. Be out in a bit." It was freezing, not just chilly, legit cold. Maybe 34, 35 degrees. I left the engine running and parked under one of the big light poles, toward the back, like I always do. Don't ask me why, but sitting under one of those towering lights feels safer than being in the shadows. Reclined my seat a bit, pulled up some dumb videos, one of those late-night rabbit holes where you don't even know what you're watching anymore. 10 minutes, tops, and something moved in the corner of my eye. I glanced up. A woman. She was walking through the lot, slowly. Not from the store, not toward a car. Just there. Floating past the garden center entrance, kind of zigzagging through the empty cart lanes, white t-shirt, no jacket, bare arms. My first thought, Jesus, she's gonna freeze. But she didn't look fazed. Her gait was strange, not limping or drunk, just slow and intentional. Like a kid pacing in detention, her head never moved. That's what got me. No glances, no phone, not even looking down at the pavement. Her arms hung loose and yeah, her body sort of swayed like she was cold, but she didn't cross them or try to warm up. Just walked this weird path, weaving like she had nowhere to go. I looked back down. Told myself she was probably fine. A lost customer or someone waiting for a ride. Nothing illegal about being strange. But by 10 o'clock, Megan still hadn't come out, not unheard of. Sometimes she helped coworkers wrap up, but I glanced up at the store entrance just to check, then scanned the lot. She was behind my car. That woman. I blinked hard. She was way closer than she had any business being. Like, right there, just a few spaces back, standing dead still. Facing my car, no movement, no expression. I straightened up and hit the lock button again, even though I was sure the doors were already locked. My heart did this quick, dull thud in my chest. Maybe she needs help, I whispered, like saying it out loud would make it true. Lost. Maybe homeless. But if that was it, why not go inside? Why just stand out here in the cold, staring at strangers' cars? I didn't get out. Didn't roll the window down. I just sat, gripping the steering wheel like I was about to race off. Then she moved. Not fast. Same slow, measured walk. Toward me. My hands were clamped tight around the steering wheel before I even realized it. She was at the passenger side now, moving slow but steady. Her eyes locked on mine through the windshield, tracking me like she could see what I was thinking. She passed in front of the car and stopped at the window. Didn't look at me exactly, more like she was staring just off to the side of my head, like how someone avoids eye contact, but on purpose. Then she knocked. 3 times. Knock. 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 I didn't roll the window down, just raised my palm and mouthed, "Sorry." Trying to look apologetic. Didn't want a scene. Didn't want to escalate. I turned my head like I was checking my phone, hoping she'd take the hint. She didn't. Another knock. Harder this time, then again, and again. The last one rattled the glass. I looked at her. Really looked. And man, her eyes were blown wide, pupils almost blacking out the rest. Her jaw was locked tight like she was biting down on something, or grinding her teeth into powder. She wasn't just cold. She was somewhere else mentally. Then she snapped, slapping the glass with open palms. pounding with both fists, hammering the side mirror like she was trying to tear it off. I panicked, threw it in reverse, shot out of the space way too fast. She sprinted after me, barefoot, feet slapping raw against cold pavement like it didn't even register. I cut the wheel hard left and floored it, heading toward the front of the store, heart thudding so loud I could barely think. My eyes darted to the doors, praying I'd see Megan walk out right then. Nothing. No movement. I circled wide, ended up near the far end of the lot by the tire center, parked again under one of the older lights. It flickered once. Great. I texted fast. Hey, some woman just tried to open my car door. Really weird. Barefoot. Freaking out. No reply. Probably in the back or still clocking out. I locked the doors again, double-checked the mirrors, tried to breathe like a normal person. The lot was still, empty, quiet. A minute passed, maybe two. Then, movement, far right. Between two parked vans, she was back, full sprint. Coming at me again, I didn't think. I just floored it. Didn't care where I was going this time, just drove. Ended up on the other side near the Costco gas station. A couple cars, a busted light flickering by the propane cage. I was sweating even though the car was freezing. Fingers trembling, I texted again. That woman came after me again. Had to drive off. Where are you? I was about to call when the front doors finally whooshed open. Megan stepped out, red Costco jacket, backpack slung over one shoulder, waving like it was any normal night. I shot toward her and hit the locks the second she got in. She blinked at me. What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. There was a woman out here, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She came at the car. Twice. First she knocked, really aggressive, and then she ran at me full sprint. Like full speed. Megan frowned, but then gave this half laugh. Wait, seriously? I'm dead serious. She was barefoot. No coat, t-shirt. It's freezing, Meg. She looked out the back window. Where is she now? I glanced around. I don't know. Last I saw she was behind the vans. I circled around to get you right after. We both scanned the lot as we pulled out. My stomach was still knotted. I half expected to see her again, standing under one of the lights behind a car in the dark. But there was nothing. Megan shook, her head slowly. That's creepy as hell. Maybe she's homeless? Or, mentally ill? Maybe, I said. But why come after my car? There were other people in that lot. Other cars she could have walked to. She picked mine. Twice. Neither of us had an answer. When we got home, I didn't say much. Just sat there on the couch, scrolling local Reddit threads, news sites, anything about a barefoot woman in the Costco lot. Nothing. Not a word. Next day, Megan mentioned it to her manager. He looked surprised, said they'd had some trouble with a woman hanging around by the dumpsters out back, near the trash compactor. Sometimes she'd dig through the bins, but they'd never seen her come up front or approach cars. I dropped Megan off that afternoon and stayed in the lot for a bit, just watching. Nothing. She never showed again. At least not when I was there. But that night changed something in me. I don't sit parked in dark lots anymore. I keep the doors locked even if I'm just waiting. I don't ignore that feeling when something's off, and I never, ever roll the window down. I used to love Saturdays. There was something sacred about weekend mornings, the kind of quiet that felt earned. The sunlight would come through the blinds just right, warming up the hardwood in soft gold. Made the whole apartment feel hopeful. My name's Rachel. Back then I was living alone in a one-bedroom just outside of Westbridge, Oregon. Small place, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'm not the type who lives and dies by routine, but some things stuck. One of them was my weekly Costco trip. Every Saturday, without fail, around 9 a.m., I'd grab my canvas bags, keys, and scribbled list, then head out to the Westbridge Costco. 10 minutes away, tops. 15 if the lights were acting up. I liked beating the rush. No screaming. Kids, no chaos in the parking lot. Just clean aisles, calm air, and that weirdly soothing warehouse hum. I'd cruise through my list, be home by 10:30, sometimes even before. Done it like clockwork for over a year. It was my little ritual, normal, dependable, safe, until it wasn't. A few years earlier, I'd moved to Westbridge for a new job, HR admin at a mid-sized tech company. Boring, sure, but stable. I didn't know anyone when I first got here, so weekends became kind of my thing. Time to reset. I filled them with long walks, thrift store hunts, and tiny comforts, rearranging drawers, reorganizing my spice rack. Costco was the crown jewel. Something about those big carts and two bright lights calmed my brain. I'd hum along to the indie playlist overhead while tossing eggs, oat milk, protein bars, apples, and if I was feeling lazy, a rotisserie chicken into the cart. I recognized the regulars too. The lady at the front, Donna I think, always wore big hoops and smelled like cinnamon gum. She had the kind of smile that looked permanent. The bakery guy was always bobbing his head to whatever was blasting in his headphones. Never said a word, just gave a nod if you caught his eye. It was one of those places where everything felt familiar, even if you didn't know a soul. This happened in early spring. The mornings were still cold enough to see your breath, but the sun was stretching a little longer each day. That Saturday started out normal. Woke up around 7:30, brewed my usual cup of coffee, dark roast, splash of oat milk, and threw on my usual errand uniform. Black leggings, old Nikes, and a green hoodie with a bleach stain on the sleeve, hair in a messy bun. I glanced at the clock, 8:56. I grabbed my bag, keys and phone and was out the door by 9:00. I pulled into the Costco lot around 9:10. Got lucky with a spot midway down the row. The sweet spot, early enough to avoid the chaos, late enough to dodge the people who lined. Up outside like it was a concert. I snagged a cart from the outdoor corral. They always moved smoother than the ones inside. Donna gave me a quick scan at the door. "Mornin', sugar," she said, bright as ever. "Morning," I replied, flashing a quick smile. Inside was the usual, cold air blasted in produce. I loaded up on blueberries, spinach, and one of those chopped salad kits with way too many croutons. An older couple near the meat section was arguing about whether pork tenderloin cooks faster in foil or not. "I'm telling you, Ed, the juice stays in with foil," the woman said. A dad was juggling paper towels and two sugar-rushed kids. He looked like he hadn't slept since 2019. It was all so normal. I took my time browsing, maybe 25 minutes, then hit the self-checkout. It was still quiet. I scanned my stuff, bagged up like a pro, and was out by 9:40. As I pushed my cart past the exit doors, I felt this weird twinge in my gut. Not pain exactly, more like a nudge, a flicker. Like when someone stares at you, too long on the bus. That strange, skin-prickling sense of being watched. I glanced around, just a couple walking in. Someone unloading a car 3 rows over. Nothing that screamed off. I shook it off, loaded my stuff into the trunk, returned the cart, and got in the car. I remember I put on a podcast, something about unsolved cases in Idaho. The host had this annoyingly upbeat voice, like he was reading a recipe, not talking about missing people. I even laughed a little at how mismatched the tone was. That's how normal it felt. That's how plain and routine the morning seemed. Until 3:17 p.m. I was on the couch, halfway through folding laundry, reruns of The Office playing low in the background when my phone buzzed. Instagram notification. User 12338gay98 tagged you in a post. I blinked, frowned. Never seen that handle before. No mutuals. I tapped it, half curious, half annoyed. The profile was blank. No pic, no bio, no posts, except one, a single carousel. I clicked. First slide, a blurry photo of me, standing in the Costco produce section, holding a container of strawberries. The shot was angled like it came from behind one of those big fruit displays. Bananas, maybe. My face was half visible, like I'd just turned my head slightly. The lighting, the way I was standing, it was unmistakably Costco. Second slide, clearer. Me again, pushing my cart past the freezer aisle. You could see my green hoodie, my bun, even the faint bleach stain on my sleeve. I looked relaxed, unaware, vulnerable. Then the third slide. A video. My stomach dropped as soon as it started. The footage showed me in the parking lot, walking toward my car. There was no movement from the camera. It was steady, almost too steady, like it had been resting on a dashboard. The shot zoomed slightly, close enough to catch every detail. The swing of my ponytail, the way I gripped my keys in my fist, pointed out like little knives, a habit from my self-defense class years ago. The lanyard bouncing against my leg. It ended just as I opened my driver's side door. I knew that angle. Someone had been sitting in another car, watching, waiting. I backed out of the video fast, heart slamming. No caption, no hashtags, no comments. Just me, completely alone. Being watched. Clicked the username again, still blank, no followers, no bio. I refreshed the page, fingers trembling. And just like that, it vanished. Account not found. I sat there, phone still in my hand, staring at the dark screen like it might blink back. What the hell had I just seen? Was it a prank? Some kind of AI stunt? A scam? But it didn't feel fake. Those moments were real. I remembered every single one of them. The strawberries. I'd picked the clamshell on the left because the berries looked firmer. I remembered. Nobody I knew would do something like this. I wasn't dating anyone. Hadn't been in a while. My friend group was small and drama-free. I kept my work life strictly professional. No tension, no flirty coworkers. Hell, I barely talked to anyone outside of mandatory meetings. So who the hell watched me? Followed me aisle to aisle. Waited outside. Filmed me. Tagged me. They had to know my name. Or dig for my account. Then just, poof, gone. What was I supposed to do? Call the police and say, hey, someone maybe filmed me at Costco, then maybe deleted it? I didn't even have proof anymore. I sat there frozen, paralyzed. The quiet in my apartment suddenly felt wrong, too still, like the air had thickened. Eventually, I got up and shut every single blind, sat back down. Didn't move for a while. For weeks after that, I avoided Costco. I started going to random little grocery stores, switching locations, switching times. The Safeway off Pine, the discount place across town. I even drove to a Trader Joe's in the next city once, just to feel untraceable. I stopped posting anything public on Instagram, made my profile private. I hovered over the delete account button more than once, but something about that felt like giving up, like letting them win. I never got another tag. No more messages, no sightings, nothing. But that feeling, it didn't fade. I started flinching when I heard footsteps behind me in a store. I'd glance over my shoulder in parking lots like a skittish deer. Whenever I saw someone sitting alone, in a parked car, engine running, just sitting, that pinch in my gut came back like clockwork. Months passed. I told myself I was healing, that it was over. Then December rolled in. I was sleeping better, eating okay, mostly back to normal, and then I had this dream. I was in Costco again, pushing my cart down a familiar aisle. But the place was empty, no people, no products, just metal shelves, hollow and echoing. The lights above buzzed with that soft fluorescent. My cartwheel squeaked, and then I heard it. Click, a camera shutter. I spun around. No one. Then again. Click, louder, closer. I woke up with a jolt, heart thudding. I glanced at the clock. 17 a.m. The same time I'd gotten that Instagram tag months ago. After that night, I started digging. Obsessively. I joined online forums, subreddits, survivor threads, anything I could find. Learned how easy it was to make a burner account. How simple it was to hide behind a VPN. How fast someone could post and delete, leaving almost no trace. And how common it was, way too common. Women being filmed, followed, watched, without ever knowing. The thought stuck in my brain like a splinter. How many times had it happened to me before? In a coffee shop, at a red light, waiting at the crosswalk? I didn't go back to Costco for almost 11 months. But then, one rainy Saturday in February, I pulled into the parking lot again. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to feel normal again. Or maybe I just got sick of being afraid. The lot was half full. I parked closer than usual, near the cart return. Grabbed a cart and walked in. Donna was there. Same bright hoops, same perfume. She smiled. "Well, look who finally came back," she said. "Been a while, huh?" I managed to smile. "Yeah, it has." The store looked exactly the same. Nothing had changed. Same layout, same overhead playlist.